The puncture wound?
Yeah.
The fact that his pants were around his ankles.
Yeah, I mean, it seems weird, right? I don't think that's the sort of thing that usually comes from a 240-foot drop.
So, a couple of things here.
Okay.
One, let's talk about his pants being around his ankles. Let's say that he went in semi-head first.
That's one possible accounting for it.
I mean, if anybody has dove into a body of water with their shorts not exactly cinched up, has experienced having their pants ripped off of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've experienced
which is
that.
a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
Sadly, I've done it in public.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that if he is falling into a moving body of water, and when did he? This was in November. So I don't know what the river level was at that time. But if a body is tumbling in a moving body of water, it is entirely possible that he could have been driven into something as simple as a stick or a piece of metal and then pulled away, and that would leave a puncture mark.
Feels like that would be a much larger puncture mark than the one they were initially speaking about, though.
You're talking about the pants being pulled off? Or
well,
what?
no, I'm talking about the puncture wound in his buttocks. I mean, think about fencing. Okay, if you've seen rigid fencing before.
Yeah.
And if people use that at the edges of river, I don't know what the area is, so I'm completely talking out of my ass.
Well, as they're saying, right, they're saying it's a puncture wound that's like the size of a needle, is what they're talking about. Where's that going to come from?
But you know what? It may not have been the size. It may have been the size of a needle when they examined it. But you've seen wounds where something larger in diameter has punctured through and torn the flesh, and then everything has filled back in the void after the fact as that is removed.
Usually that happens when someone's alive, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it could have happened right away. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't think it is as suspicious as it is pointed out.
Yeah.
I hate conspiracies, and I am going to rail on this a lot, and I apologize.
I know you are.
I can't help it.
Yeah. So, do we want to move on? Since Steve
sure.
is an immovable object, apparently.
Yeah, I think
yes.
Mr. Sharif's wild ride.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Wild, very short ride.
Yeah. Marconi initially said that Mr. Sharif, was just a junior employee, and he didn't really have anything to do with Star Wars, and he didn't really know what was going on. Not so, say the coworkers. Apparently, at the time of his death, Mr. Sharif was apparently about to be promoted. Also, apparently, Mr. Sharif worked in Mr. Dajibai's...
The hardest name ever to pronounce?
Yeah, in his department with him. For both of them to have died in relative succession of, kind of questionableness, that seems kind of weird. Police also said that Mr. Sharif, the reason that he committed suicide is because he was upset for the breakup. That woman that they initially identified was actually his landlady, not his lover. And then the media said, actually, hey, that woman, police, that you guys said was his lover, that's his landlady. They said, oh, no. Actually, the woman was a coworker who was married with children, so we didn't want to release her name. And then his friends came forward and said, no, he had a fiance in Pakistan.
And he was trying to get her into the country.
Right. And apparently by, the reports that I've read, that was going fine.
Maybe that's why he committed suicide.
Well, he had an appointment with his MP over.
Right, yeah. It sounded like things were going fine. He had obviously been deemed respectable enough that he had been given clearance. He worked on top secret projects for Marconi under contract from the Crown. For him to say, hey, my fiance wants to come here, it seems reasonable that process would have been fairly smooth. They, by no accounts, were breaking up. So I don't really know where the police were getting this information.
Well, the suicide angle is from the fact that he left a tape, if not more than one tape, in his car that was of himself.
The police did say that, yes.
They say that they found tapes of his voice that were indicative of a suicide note.
The police do say that, yes.
Well, it might be that his fiancée in Pakistan. where they have a lot of arranged marriages. It might be that that was the source of his depression, too, because he might not, he might have actually not really wanted to go through with this marriage.
Yeah.
And now that it's looking like it's going to succeed, he's like, this sucks. I'd rather be dead than marry her. And
yeah, I mean, there's a whole list of possible reasons that he could have decided to take his own life. And as we talked about before initially, is that, like I've seen, this method of suicide is usually it's got a revenge edge to it.
Yeah, it seems weird from what I've read from his life. At that time, it seems weird. But if he'd actually broken up with somebody, I don't know. We don't. Do you know? Because I don't know if this was actually his car. Yeah, it was his car.
You know that for sure?
I mean, I'm like 90% sure.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, it's like there's that revenge act of, okay, well, screw it. I'm gonna destroy this car with myself.
No, I think it was his car.
Okay. I don't know that.
It was his Audi that he purchased with his Marconi money. I mean,
there we go. Then that is not a viable angle. Yeah. That's why I said I didn't know.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of borrowing somebody's car for that.
Yeah, me too. I know you have two other ones that you want to...
Well, there's details about two others that seem weird. So there's Britton. He's the one who was found under the car in an odd angle. That you have some weird theory about, because you just are a naysayer tonight. But it's weird. I see people saying that he was at an odd angle, jammed under there, but Joe had been talking about the fact of, I once touched an exhaust pipe and it was hot, and I have been under a car and done something similar, and your immediate uncontrollable reaction is to involuntarily jerk your body. At which point, if you're underneath a vehicle, you know what you do? You hit the undercarriage of the car with your head. I have almost knocked myself out under a car before. So I can see a guy who crawls under, they say it's a weird angle, but if he crawls under there and something happens, he touches something that's hot and he inadvertently jerks and wails his noggin, he's then going to be incapacitated and may have some kind of convulsion. I don't know, but that may explain how he wedged himself farther under there.
I kind of like the idea of two burly Russian guys stuffing his body.
You know what? That is your explanation for everything. Mm-hmm. It's amazing we kept that out of the Maura Murray episode.
It's hard with the domino effect of this though, right? Where you think, okay, well, one time of one guy accidentally wanging his head and dying, but when you take in fact that within a year period, 5.
And I know
people?
No.
So that comes up though. That's in the final theory. There's a stress aspect that is in the final theory that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But I have one more because I have a kind of simple explanation for one more, and that is David Sands. He's the guy who drove into the cafe or the cafeteria and it went boom.
Yeah.
He had gotten all those gas cans several days ahead of time. It's 2 5-gallon cans of fuel, petrol, that he had in his car. He died in 1987. Well, as I remember gas cans in 1987, they had a plug in one end and a screw cap on the other, and none of that was extremely tight. So I remember walking into buildings when I was a kid that had 1 or 2 gas cans, and they reeked of fumes.
Yeah.
So it's very possible he'd gone and gotten gas several days before, and then disappeared for a 4-hour drive. At which point he told his wife he was thinking and he didn't remember much of his drive. And now he gets in his car again, which is full of gas fumes, and is driving around. It is completely possible that this guy was inadvertently huffing gas and out of his head.
Yeah.
Or maybe he just lit a cigarette.
Yeah.
And his car actually erupted into a fireball and then went out of control.
That's why he made that weird turn, because he jerked the wheel and just happened to drive into that little offshoot road.
But again, that's super lucky.
But it's just people do stupid stuff. I know so many people that used to use the screw top gas cans to store gas, and then you would walk over and I would touch the lid and it would fall off and like, oh, I thought I screwed that back on last time I used it. Like,
no, for
these
sure.
are very plausible reasons.
They
and
are,
very
but then we start talking about like taken as a whole, right? And I grant you. I mean, I think for me it's like,
and I don't want to take them as a
half.
whole because I think taking them as a whole is too simple of an approach. That's why it bothers me that it's a conspiracy.
Some, but I mean, I think for others it is. It's like, really, seriously, you think that 2 dudes died of electrocution within 10 days of each other?
That is a little odd.
That's insane to me.
I'm also going to say though that the whole running my car in the garage is a trope, and everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
And there is the phenomena of copycats.
Yeah.
So it may be that he said, oh, wow, I heard about this guy at the company. You know, that might actually be kind of a quick way to do it. Yeah. I'm going to do that.
I might have just thought all the cool kids are doing it. I'm going to do it.
So here are the 2, I guess, additional addendum theories, right? Is that, like, there's a hitman. Because there are nice little clusters of, oh, hey, for a year, these people died this way, and then for a year, these people died this way, and then for another year, these
So for a year, it was the Russians, then it was the Chinese, then it was the Americans.
It is a nice cluster. I will give you that. It is, it's really clean.
Early 87.
The delineation, between each of those. But then, there's the other fact of, like, there's a lot of stress involved, right? So we start talking about why, right? Why would these deaths be... Why would they be murders, or why would they be suicides, and like why would these things happen? For suicide, it's probably a pretty easy answer. These people are under a lot of stress, and they're developing essentially weapons of fairly mass destruction.
Well, not
and
really.
They can't talk to anybody.
And they can't.
In their personal life.
They can't really talk about it. They're not mass destruction, but they are powerful weapons.
It's big destruction. In my world, that's mass destruction. It's not like thousands of people.
Joe,
but you're not. You see a torpedo. If you take out a submarine or a ship, well,
it's a lot of people.
You're killing a few hundred people. Yeah.
But I also remember, Joe, and I don't know. I know Devin won't because you're too young. But for you, if you remember this, my dad worked for a government organization, and I remember this kind of weird, overarching cloud of stress of just like where in the hell the world was and what we were going through in terms of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And it weighed on some people more than others. And while my pop wasn't in any kind of direct secret thing, he dealt with things that to this day, I can't get him to breathe a word of, and it's a very clean line of I shut it down. Yeah. So there is this weird stress level that happens.
There's also, there's 2 other things at play here, right? There's the British stiff upper lip.
But also the fact that you can't talk about this stuff.
Well, the top secret nature of that. But I'll also include the harmful aspects of reinforced masculinity at this time, right?
I think I think that you guys are like trending too hard towards suicide here. I mean, some of them were.
Oh no, I don't think it's that. No, I'm just trying to argue every angle.
As I tried to say earlier, 4 of them have something in common, besides the fact that their deaths were ruled suicide. And that would be Sharif, Stans, Beckham, and Ferry. And so, they were all bizarre suicide things.
Yeah.
We got the guy who decapitated himself with his car and a rope. We got the guy with the gas cans in the car, and then we got the 2 guys who electrocuted themselves, one in the chest, one in the mouth. So all very strange suicide methods. And the other thing they have in common is they all had made appointments to meet with their MPs.
Yeah, that's true.
And which of course never happened.
Right.
And so that's kind of intriguing.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's where I would go with the like.
And that's why
part.
I'm not going with the pure suicide theory.
No. I absolutely agree with you. I am just trying to give a bit of historic framing to some people who may not be thinking in that context. I'm happy to go down. I'm actually happier to go down the conspiracy. Most of these people were murdered avenue than I am Steve's avenue.
Yeah, the whole Cold War thing is just what you have to understand about the Cold War is I lived through part of it. and that is that in the late 40s and in the 50s, it was a much more paranoid time.
Oh, well,
and
yeah.
By this time, the late 80s, of course, and nobody knew it in 1987. I mean, nobody knew that
it was almost over.
The Soviet Union was about to fall just a few years. And we, everybody thought it was going to be around for much, much, much longer than that. And it was a big shock and surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't surprised when it all came tumbling down.
Right.
But still, by that point in time, things had stabilized to the point that everybody felt like the actual possibility of warfare, or nuclear warfare, and all that stuff was remote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the big pressure in the Cold War was really like 40s and 50s.
Well, but and the other way to go. I mean, you've called out those four as really odd suicides. Mm-hmm. The other two that are looked at as suicides are the ones that were tied up with the cling wrap around their head.
Oh yeah, the sexual misadventure ones, and
right, and
those are also suspicious.
Well, they're suspicious because I didn't know this until I was doing some of the reading. Is that that is a great? It turns out that's a great way to discredit somebody.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Because now you've labeled them a pervert.
Yeah.
Exactly.
According to the general population, what did that person do?
Yeah.
And I was like, they were trying something, or somebody was over and they had an accident and somebody just left, and I was like, it's modern thinking versus 1980s thinking. Oh, wow, that really does just.
There's a lot of stuff about whistleblowing, and there's this kind of catch-22 with a lot of people, especially like when things are changing like they were in the 80s with the Cold War, right? The Soviet Union had come tumbling down, we're kind of, things are being revealed, like Star Wars was revealed, right, to the media, and suddenly the Reagan administration was like, oh yeah, we were doing this thing, haha, cool. And so I think there was this kind of sense, or there's the potential for this kind of sense of, if you were working on these projects, right, you had this pressure to either be a whistleblower and reveal what you knew, or
what are they revealing?
What I mean, if they knew something top secret, if they knew about some project, whatever.
Or if they knew about, say,
embezzling or
embezzlement, cost. I mean, often cost overruns that actually turns out were just felony, that kind of thing.
Or any kind of just immoral,
anything like that, any sort of bribery, things like that. So that's why the whole it's kind of interesting. These four guys that killed themselves in bizarre ways wanted to talk to their MP. Oh, by the way, if you're not from Britain, MP is Member of Parliament.
Yeah.
I should have probably said that earlier.
So it's like congressman.
It's like your congressman.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think there's that sense of at that time, right, that's a very pivotal moment of either you are a whistleblower or you're implicated in an inquest. Right. And I think I've seen that thrown around a lot on the internet in terms of why that would be that these people are being murdered, was because they may have known something, they may have thought they known something, they may have known nothing, but they may have been making appointments to meet with people who you would traditionally meet with if you were to be a whistleblower.
Yeah, it could have been.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's a good theory.
So you have connected for me the dots that I had not been able to connect in the reading, which is there's writings about going to see their MPs, and then there was writings about the fact that some of these people were complaining about the unscientific nature of the tasks that they were assigned.
Yeah.
In other words, it sounded like they were assigned to do really stupid stuff, and they were like, dude, why am I doing this? And now I understand the implication of that is that it was an excuse to run your time, to bill for something, just to bill for something.
Yeah. Or
in other words, saying you came to work all week and billing for 40 hours, but actually sitting at home and watching the telly the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, it could have been it could have been so much as just being shunted aside and into something else, because they gotten somebody maybe upstairs had kind of gotten the idea that you were maybe going to rat them out, so they wanted to get you away from the project.
So then
so they put you on something meaningless and stupid.
But then that lens now, that makes the connection for me of some of the things that I had read about, like, well, why is this a murder? And I was like, well, that doesn't make any freaking sense. Now it makes sense to me. Why? Now they see, they've gotten angry enough, they're going to go complain to somebody who is in a position to do something about it.
Yeah, it's possibly that.
Yeah.
And also, let's not forget. Actually, it's not that uncommon for scientists to be murdered by the opposition.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot.
If they can't be flipped.
Yeah, it's not that uncommon, and so it's happened plenty.
That's one of the things that I've always been curious. There are certain people who did come to this country after World War II and worked for us, and I wonder how many of them didn't come here because they didn't want to turn.
A lot.
It's just one of those.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do a lot of episodes on that.
Let's not.
Yeah. I think a lot of Germans came here because, and let's face it, their country had been flattened. And,
Totally.
it's like opportunities are much better over here.
So I think it's probably there are a few of these that are kind of tossed in here. But I do think it's reasonable to think that a lot of these suicides are suspect and probably not actually suicides.
Yeah, I would say so.
I call this a mixed bag. This is a 50-50 mix for me.
No,
really? Actually 50-50?
Oh, ballpark.
Okay.
I'm using rough numbers. There's 25 of them. I don't want to do that kind of math.
For me, it's 25-75.
25.
I thought it was 26 of them.
25 bad, 75 innocent, or
other
way
around. I think 25% of them are probably pretty innocent. I think 75% of them are nefarious in some way. Whether they're all connected to each other or not, I don't know. But I think 75% of these were murders.
Yeah, some of them. I mean, like the guys that made their the appointments with their MPs.
Yeah.
Of course, we can leave Sharif out of this because he had made an appointment for his MP to talk about his wife coming.
I don't think I can leave. Sharif out of there.
He had.
But anyway.
No. I mean,
it was about her, not.
But I don't think I can leave him out of there because I think that's clever.
But yeah, it's true too. So some of them were maybe murdered by agents of Marconi, the defense, and then some of the other ones were maybe murdered by the Russians.
Yeah. Or even the U.S.
Oh yeah, I don't think the U.S. No.
Well, who knows? I mean,
they were murdered by Kraft.
Well, but I mean,
because it's macaroni, not Marconi.
I know.
Yeah, good point.
It turns out they were stealing the macaroni and cheese. The liquid gold.
Stealing the secret formula.
Yeah.
Before Velveeta got it.
Yeah.
So do you guys
Velveeta cheese is the best.
Do you have anything else to add?
I don't. That's why I'm talking about Velveeta cheese.
No?
No. I'm just like, I don't think we're likely to solve this mystery anytime soon.
No, I don't think so either, but I think it's interesting to talk about. If you want to see some of the links to our research, you can find that on our website. That's thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. We are, of course, on iTunes. We're on Google Play. We're streaming pretty much everywhere. So you should subscribe and rate and review if you haven't done that on your respective however you are hearing me right now. Preferably a good one, but whatever. We'll take what we can get. We've got Facebook, we've got a group and a page, so you can join the group and like the page. We have Twitter, which is Thinking Sideways. We do have a subreddit, which is Thinking Sideways. It's our Thinking Sideways. And then you can also email us with just, feedback, suggestions, offers of expertise.
Just tell us how much you love us.
Pretty much. We like those emails the most. Oh, yeah. That email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. And then if you'd like to support the show in any way, we've got a couple ways to do that. We have merchandise. There's a link on our website. We've got PayPal if you want to do a one-time donation. Or we have Patreon, which is at patreon.com/thinkingsideways, which you heard in the beginning there. And that's how you set up a recurring donation. And that really sustains the show's budget. We don't really have a budget. We kind of do this on our own time. And so what that does, any of those donations help us cover the basic costs of podcast. We're not out to make a profit. We're not collecting.
Well, actually,
I'm not wearing this gold watch watch because of the Patreon. Wait, there's no watch on my arm.
There's no watch.
What about my Rolex?
No.
There's no Rolex there.
No, we're not. We're not trying to make income on this or anything like that. We just want to cover our costs, which has been really successful. You
Help
guys have
provide
been really
content
generous.
to everybody. So yeah,
totally. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we
for
appreciate
that.
you guys. Thank you.
And if you haven't done that and you want to, patreon.com/thinking-sideways.
it's Patreon.
Yeah, Google it. Don't try to do it by yourself. All of that having been said, I think we're going to jet on out of here.
Yeah, I think so. Toodaloo, people.
We'll talk to you next week, everybody.
Bye.
Como algo exclusivamente para niños. Esto, por supuesto,
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I'm Steve, of course, joined by my lovely co-hosts,
Joe.
And Devin.
and once again, we've got a little bit of a mystery. Well, actually, it's kind of a story, kind of a mystery, but unlike most of them, we've actually got a good bit of information to reveal.
Yeah, we've got.
This is true, too.
Yeah.
But we're going to save that bit for the end.
We do have a big reveal. We actually did get some kind of insider exclusive information about this, and we're really stoked about it. Yeah.
Before we get into the story itself, I do just want to real quick say thank you to Nicole who sent this in. She sent it to us 6 months ago or so, and I apologize for taking so long to get to it. Probably shouldn't apologize because that's probably going to be most of our
Most of them are.
because we're trying to work them in chronological order. But let's get to the story.
Okay.
Today we're talking about Jeff the Talking Mongoose.
Yeah.
Jeff, the story of Jeff the Talking Mongoose starts out in September of 1931 when the Irving family, and the family consists of James, Margaret, and their 13-year-old daughter, Voirey, I want to say is how you pronounce her name. Voirey?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's Voirey.
Yeah, Voirey? I don't know.
I don't know. It's a
I don't
very
care.
British. It's a very British. I'm sure it was at the time kind of made sense for that area because this whole story takes place on the Isle of Man. The family said that they heard persistent noises in the walls or behind the wooden walls of their farmhouse, and these noises were evidently, it would be rustling or scratching, and at some point kind of vocalizations. I don't know what the early noises were. There's not a lot of good description of it. The family said that the noises kind of sounded like they were maybe made by a ferret or a dog or, weirdly enough, a baby, which is just weird, in the wooden walls of your
Sounds
farmhouse.
like there's a baby in our walls, but let's just ignore it.
The dad, James, thought it was a rat, and he tried to drive it out. Obviously, that didn't work.
No.
He failed. But the noises continued for several days, and again, James Irving, he set traps, he put out poison, nothing's working. As a last-ditch effort, he went to a spot in the wall. There had to have been some kind of opening, and I don't know if this is a knothole or just a bit of board missing. We don't know. But he decides that what he's going to do is try and scare this critter out by growling at it like a dog.
Fair. It's a good idea.
Wait, have you done that before?
Sure.
Yeah.
It works.
I don't have animals living in my walls anymore.
Well, it didn't work so well for James because whatever was in the wall growled right back at him.
Oh.
And that's when they discovered Jeff in the walls.
Jeff.
Jeff learned to talk and said that he was a mongoose and that he had been born in New Delhi, India in 1852.
That's some clever mongoose.
It really is.
How do you get to the Isle of Man?
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
The Irvings say that Jeff told them that he was an a earthbound spirit and a ghost in the form of a mongoose, which is all rather strange to me.
I thought he reincarnated as a mongoose.
Man, reincarnation sucks.
No, a
Depends on what you
mongoose
reincarnate as.
it wouldn't be the worst thing to be reincarnated as.
You could come back as a flea. You're right.
Yeah.
That
You
would
know,
be
a
terrible.
mongoose, you get to just like nest up and like cuddle up and
Yeah. Unless you fall into the hands of those jerks in some countries that, like, pit it against cobras,
yeah, obviously
Not the country you want to reincarnate as a mongoose.
no.
No, probably not.
Well, the Irvings made other statements or claims about Jeff. They, again, this is James Irving, said, it announces its presence by calling either myself or my wife by our Christian names. This is something that he wrote, I think it might have been in his diary, or maybe he wrote it to a paper, I don't know, because the papers went crazy about this, as we're going to talk about. His hearing powers are phenomenal. It's no use whispering. It detects whispers 15 to 20 feet away, tells you that you're whispering, and then repeats exactly what one has to say, which sounds like a jerkish move to me.
Yeah, that's interesting actually that that Jim refers to Jeff as an it.
I don't think he liked Jeff all that much.
Yeah.
But
Really?
Jeff didn't mind him, evidently.
Actually, not like mongooses. They're cute.
They look like little versions of... Well, they look like a ferret, basically.
Kind of like a ferret, but
They're cute enough.
Yeah. Well,
Jeff was a good guard for the house. Jeff would tell them when someone was approaching the house, and would also tell them when dogs that he didn't recognize were coming to the house. If somebody had forgot to put the fire out at night, Jeff evidently was the one that would go down and shut the flue down and tamp the fire, or to put the fire out, which is an awfully nice thing to do, and would wake people up if they overslept.
see, my cats do that.
If they did actually get mice in their house, Jeff would get rid of them. But Jeff said that Jeff didn't want to kill them, would actually just scare the mice away. Which, okay, I guess, but that means to me they'd come back. But hey, what do I know? I'm not a mongoose. The Irvings, well, they fed Jeff not exactly the normal fare that I would say a mongoose should be eating. I mean, what do you think about this diet, Devin? We've got biscuits, chocolates, bananas, and any other food that they had around.
Well, that sounds like, what the Brits eat anyways.
Yeah.
That's not the standard diet for British people?
I don't think it is.
No?
No, it's bangers and mash.
Yeah. Jeff probably would have loved some bangers and mash.
I bet he would.
Well, the family would put that food in a saucer that they suspended from the ceiling. Again, I have to presume that there was a knothole or some kind of gap in the ceiling for Jeff to come through to get it.
Yeah.
But Jeff would only do it when he thought that nobody was watching, so they never knew when the food disappeared. None of the adults in the family ever saw Jeff. Only the daughter, Voire. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Just call her V.
V said that she saw Jeff only when he wanted to be seen, and that Jeff was about the size of a small rat with yellowish fur and a large bushy tail, which sounds like a squirrel to me.
Yeah.
Funny looking squirrel. Jeff, as we alluded to earlier, became pretty popular in the tabloids. Journalists and other people from everywhere came to the house to try to investigate and discover what Jeff was. Nobody could ever hear Jeff. Nobody ever saw Jeff. There were claims of people who said they saw Jeff, but those were unsubstantiated. There were prints on the walls of the inside of the house, as well as hair that were left around that they claimed was from Jeff.
Oh, like fur?
Yeah.
Okay.
It turned out it was from the family sheepdog. Both the muddy prints and the hair. So we've got nothing substantial there. This is where the story kind of takes its sad turn, is that James died, and his wife Margaret and their daughter had to leave the home in 1945. And Jeff didn't go with them. They had to sell the farm, from what I can tell, at a pretty hefty loss. Because of Jeff, it was considered haunted, so nobody wanted to pay good money for it.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeff is not exactly an unfriendly ghost, though, really.
No, seems pretty nice.
Seems like a nice little critter.
He's got some kind of jerkish behavior that we'll talk about here momentarily.
Oh, okay.
The person who bought the house was a farmer by the name of Leslie Graham, and Leslie Graham claimed to have shot and killed Jeff.
Aw.
Yeah. Once again, the creature that he displayed was pretty large and had black and white fur and didn't match the descriptions of Jeff. And V. Irvington, as we're going to call her from now, was certain that... What did I say? Irving. Sorry. She was certain that it was not Jeff. She did pass away back in 2005. And she was pretty hesitant to talk about Jeff for a lot of that time, but she said that she didn't make Jeff up, and she was positive Jeff was real.
Well, it sounds like Leslie may have killed like a skunk or something.
Yeah.
You know?
That's kind of what I thought. Or a big rat or something.
Well, if it was black and white, I would presume. I mean, mongooses don't come in that color. They're
brown.
Brown or like
yeah.
yellowy brown, not black and white. So certainly it wasn't a mongoose.
No.
Whatever it was.
Couldn't have been a mongoose that he got.
No.
Let's move to the theories.
Okay.
So theory number 1 is that Jeff was a poltergeist, which kind of makes sense.
Okay.
As Joe said earlier, kind of a friendly ghost.
I thought poltergeists were always kind of jerks, though.
Well,
They're
not a
mischievous.
poltergeist, a ghost. An actual ghost, as Jeff claimed. Let's run with that theory.
Okay.
Only wanted to be seen, or could only be seen when wanted to be seen. That's kind of a ghostish thing. Could talk to people, kind of a ghostish thing. Here's where some of the jerky behavior comes from. Could throw rocks.
Oh.
Yeah, it turned out Jeff didn't like Margaret, the mom, very much. And when they would go out on walks, because they would go on walks to town or whatnot, Jeff would run along and chatter at them or to them while in the bushes, but never in plain sight. But occasionally, Margaret would be out there and Jeff would throw stones at her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not that nice.
Can ghosts do that?
Well, that's why I kind of went with the poltergeist angle, is that
Poltergeist
poltergeists are supposed to be able to do that.
But can a poltergeist be mobile, though? Or is he like pinned to the house that he inhabits?
That really depends on who you ask and the situation. Because I've seen stuff about they followed me to the market, and I don't know. I can't corroborate any of that.
There are some poltergeists who reportedly follow objects or people, right, from house to house to house. But you would presume that if Jeff was a poltergeist and was following Margaret or somebody, that he would have gone to the next house with them.
Yeah.
Who knows what?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, but Jeff got up to some pretty prankish behavior, which is also a poltergeist thing.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night, would throw sand at the windows, and would also in the middle of the night decide to sing songs, sometimes bawdy songs, and would just sing them out loud for the whole family, which is great when you got a 13-year-old girl in the house. You're trying to protect her.
Yeah, well.
But hey, what do I know?
She's got to learn sometime.
Exactly.
May as well be from that weird poltergeist that you have that's also a mongoose, maybe.
Could be, it's just been what's the word I'm thinking of? He's been inhabited by like a demon or something like that.
So a ghost possessed by a demon?
He's been possessed by
a real mongoose.
A mongoose possessed by a demon.
I don't know. I mean, that's territory we haven't ever really gone into, so I don't...
We're going into it now.
Our next theory is that Jeff really was a mongoose who was actually extra clever. It turns out mongoose were imported to the area...
Is it mongoose or mongoose?
Okay, mongoose.
Okay. All right.
Mongoose, the plural of mongoose.
I don't think that's right.
Is it mongooses?
I'm not using English today. The mongoose were brought to the Isle of Man about 20 years earlier. And there's not a lot of sources that I could find about when exactly they were imported. I really only found that date on one site.
Okay.
And this happened in a number of places. Is they would bring them in an attempt to control rats, because they're kind of like ferrets. They're the same builds. You bring them in to try to kill all the rats. Well, turns out that a mongoose isn't all that excited to kill a rat if it's not starving. So they didn't work. They went and ate other stuff.
Sure.
But
Well, they're good at killing snakes.
they are, and they're from the lower 2/3. You can find mongoose in the lower 2/3 of Africa, in the lower band of Asia. And as Joe had talked about with the snake things, people had been training them for years to fight snakes.
Actually, I don't think you even need to train them. I think they just know how to do it.
Well,
go ahead.
mongoose, however we're saying it today. I mean, the way that they survive is they, what's the nice way of saying it is they're quote unquote scavengers in real life. So they actually eat reptile eggs. Often, that's one of their main sources of food, and so they have to be good at fighting off the parent of said nest.
Yeah.
In case the parent comes back and it's like, hey, wait, maybe don't eat my unborn egglings.
Have you ever seen a mongoose and a cobra fight?
No, because I don't like animal cruelty.
No, I know it is cruel. And I just saw a little brief clip of it one time. They put them in an aquarium together. And the cobra, rears up and everything, and just strikes at the mongoose, and just instantaneously the mongoose was in the air, over the top of the cobra, came down on top of him, bam, that was it for the cobra.
Really?
Yeah.
They're quick. They're very clever.
Yeah,
They are clever, and so it's possible that somebody had one and was training it for, I don't know, some kind of goofy act or something, and then it got loose. Now, how Jeff was able to talk, I can't say, but the presence of the mongoose could be explained through that. That's very far-fetched. I understand that.
Well, I don't know. There are dogs that can talk. I mean, you see those videos online. I mean, they're not actually talking, right? They just have figured out how to howl in a certain way, or vocalize in a certain way that sounds kind of like talking. So I don't know.
Could be interpretation of noises that were made. And
what
one
about
was going, oh, well, Jeff just said this.
How about that singing and dancing frog in that cartoon?
That's real, right?
No, it's totally real.
Totally real.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Let's move to our next theory that I found out there. Which is that Jeff the Talking Mongoose was just a little girl's fantasy and or a dad's plan to entertain his daughter.
I don't like this theory.
Why?
Well, because I don't know. I think
You like this story a lot.
I think Jeff's real. I mean,
Well, can I tell everybody the theory?
I guess.
Okay, this family lived out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I believe the town near where they were, it was Darby or Dalby. I somehow don't have it here in my notes, which is shocking. But they didn't have electricity. They didn't have a phone or a radio. Records. That was it. They had nothing to entertain themselves in the downtime. So to me, it seems quite plausible that the dad did this as a way to entertain his daughter and give her some fun, and then she really took on, or she did it as a way, because according to some, she was a bit of a ventriloquist, so she was throwing her voice to play, and everybody just got on board because it was a fun family game.
Except for the rocks.
Except for the rocks.
Yeah, and the sand and the sing-song, right?
And the body, yeah. Where did this little 13-year-old girl learn the dirty songs?
Yeah.
It's England.
Oh, that's a good point.
Well,
Probably learned them out at the pub.
She was down at the pub and met a
Probably.
sailor.
Yeah.
That didn't come out right. But yeah, I mean, the thing is that it doesn't matter which one of these theories it is, because like I said before, people came and stayed with them for weeks on end, and they got absolutely nothing. People were investigating it, trying to figure out who Jeff was or what Jeff was, and nothing happened.
I don't feel like that proves anything, though. I mean, if I were a poltergeist, right, I wouldn't necessarily act up when my family wasn't around. If the whole point was to play with these people
Why show off for somebody new?
Really?
Oh, exactly.
But also, you just are corroborating these people's story, and why would you do them that favor?
Exactly.
You know?
It's actually much more fun to have them out there being made fools of.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of devious and extra clever.
See?
All right.
But also, Jeff may have realized that if he showed himself to the rest of the world and proved his existence, then sooner or later somebody from the circus or something is going to come down and make an offer and buy him, and he's not going to be his own man anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
But we have some good evidence here,
So
right?
here's the deal. Here's where we get to that good bit of evidence in the story that clinches what's really going on.
Yeah.
Because I was doing some digging, and I actually managed to get in some newspaper archives.
Hello?
I don't know how they got scanned, but they were scanned.
Is this working?
And when I started to
Hang on, let me try this. There we go. Hello, it is I, Jabuzo again. It's been another year of these three foolish humans spending their time talking instead of petting us. My sister and I are still not happy about this. Isn't that right, Beans?
What? Sure.
Real supportive, Beans. Anyway, here is another piece of evidence showing how foolish they really are. It's disturbing, isn't it, Beans? Beans. Beans. Great, you're asleep again.
Well, hi there, and always the same way.
All right, let me do it. Hey there, welcome to Thinking Sideways podcast.
Hey, welcome to Thinking Sideways Podcast,
I'm
the podcast
Joe,
where
joined by-
unsolved mysteries.
Yeah,
Devin,
we've been doing this
joining
a while.
me
We're
as
getting bored.
All right.
He says, I recently started listening to podcasts in general and was very disappointed that there are very few podcasts